On June 3rd, Andriy Yermak, head of the Office of the President of Ukraine, held a meeting in Washington with U.S. Special Envoy for Ukraine Keith Kellogg. Yermak shared on his Telegram page that they discussed the situation on the front line, the outcomes of the meetings in Istanbul, the importance of strengthening sanctions against Russia, and continued defense support for Ukraine. Another key topic of discussion was the issue of children abducted by Russia. A Ukrainian delegation led by Minister of Economy Yulia Sviridenko arrived in Washington the day before. According to Andriy Yermak, the team also includes representatives from the Office of the President of Ukraine and the Ministry of Defense. While in Washington, the delegation was scheduled to meet with representatives from both U.S. political parties who support Ukraine, as well as with the team of U.S. President Donald Trump. Ukraine's recent strike on Russia's strategic aviation, known as Operation Spiderweb, is significant not for the destruction of aircraft, but for the psychological impact it had, said U.S. Special Envoy for Ukraine Keith Kellogg. In an interview with Fox News on June 3rd, he noted that the operation demonstrated Ukraine's ability to strike high-value military targets deep within Russian territory.
It's not so much the damage done on the bombers, which was what you call the bear, in the NATO terms, we call them bear and blackjack, because the 22s, the Tupolev 22s, those are the swept-wing ones, that they're all nuclear capable. But anytime you attack the triad, it's not so much the damage you do on the triad itself, like the delivery vehicles, the bombers, but it's the psychological impact you have. It showed that Ukraine is not lying down on this. Ukraine is basically just, we can play this game too.
Russian forces continued their attacks on Ukrainian regions. In the early hours of Wednesday, Moscow's troops launched a combined strike with UAVs and missiles on Kharkiv and its suburbs. According to the State Emergency Service, a civilian enterprise, a service station, and a residential building caught fire. One person was injured. In the village of Tsirkuny, a private house was completely destroyed. There was one explosion and then another one. We did not bother and remained in bed. My wife suggested taking shelter in the cellar or school basement. I thought it will be over soon. And then another explosion came. It was not a big one, but the building was caught on fire. In the Sumy region, Russian UAVs targeted one of the enterprises, causing significant destruction and fires. Additionally, 10 private houses were damaged. Rescuers extinguished the large-scale fire. In Odessa, one person was injured in a Russian UAV attack. Residential houses, warehouse buildings, and a service station were also damaged. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy met with IAEA Director Rafael Grossi, who is visiting Ukraine for the 12th time since the beginning of Russia's full-scale invasion. According to the press service of the Office of the Ukrainian President, the main focus of their discussion was the situation at the temporarily occupied Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. Zelenskyy emphasized the importance of the IAEA mission being present at the site, fully in compliance with international law. He also stressed that any potential attempt by Russia to restart the reactors at the plant is unacceptable. Earlier, in an interview with Reuters, the IAEA chief stated that there are currently no conditions for restarting the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant.
From our perspective, and I don't think the Russians will contradict this, the conditions are simply not there for the restart of the plant in the absence of a stable supply of electricity from outside, or the necessary levels of water to support the cooling function of the plant, which is simply not there. It is the current levels of the reservoir and the pumping systems functioning in connection with it are just okay for a cold shutdown status.
Ukraine is invited for the NATO summit in The Hague, stated the NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte. During the press conference ahead of the meeting of the Alliance Ministers of Defense, Rutte confirmed the invitation to the event that will take place on June 24th, 25th.
I invited Ukraine to the summit. We will, as soon as possible, bring out the program with more details. When it comes to Ukraine, NATO, we will have, and this is very important today with the defense ministers, the Ukraine Defense Contact Group, we will have a NATO-Ukraine Council tomorrow. And we will continue having these meetings and making sure that we coordinate to the max. And the summit will play a role there, absolutely.
According to Rutte, at today's ministerial meeting, NATO will also address its continued support for Ukraine and the need to bring an end to the war. The United Kingdom has pledged to deliver 100,000 drones to Ukraine by the end of the current financial year in April 2026, 10 times the volume of shipments reached in 2024. This was announced on the official website of the British government ahead of the Ukraine Defence Contact Group meeting in Brussels. According to the UK Ministry of Defence, London is investing a record £350 million to increase the supply of drones to Kyiv, as part of the UK's £4.5 billion military support this year. Additionally, the UK will spend a further £247 million this year on training the armed forces of Ukraine on British soil. Ukraine marks the Day of Remembrance for children killed as a result of Russia's armed aggression against Ukraine. Due to Russia's ongoing war, 631 children have been killed, 1,975 injured, and 2,244 remain missing, reported the juvenile police. Since the start of the full-scale invasion, Moscow has also deported or forcibly transferred over 19,000 Ukrainian children. To date, just 1,345 have been returned, according to the statement of the juvenile police. A new exchange of prisoners of war between Ukraine and Russia will take place on Saturday and Sunday. This was announced by Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy during a press conference on June 4th. According to him, Moscow is ready to exchange 500 soldiers. However, Ukraine has not yet received the lists. Today, our groups held consultations regarding the exchange, which we had agreed upon. The Russian side passed on information that this weekend, on Saturday and Sunday, they can hand over 500 people, 500 of our soldiers, of those 1,000, plus what we agreed on. From our side, we will be ready for this exchange. During the same press conference, Zelenskyy commented on the Russian so-called memorandum handed over to the Ukrainian side during negotiations in Istanbul. He described the document as an ultimatum. The Russians knew that this is an ultimatum, and neither the Ukrainian side nor anyone else will perceive it seriously, because it is an ultimatum. This was not a memorandum of understanding. A memorandum is supposed to be agreed upon by two sides and not contain requirements from just one side. That's why one cannot call this document a memorandum. After all, this is an ultimatum from the Russian side addressed to us. Ukraine's security service released unique footage of the special operation Spiderweb, carried out on June 1st. The video was published on the service's official Telegram channel. It shows FPV drones targeting 4 Russian airfields: Olenya, Ivanovo, Diaghilevo, and Belaya. All of these airfields house Russian strategic aviation, which Moscow regularly used to attack Ukrainian cities. Among the affected aircraft were the A-50, Tu-95, Tu-22, Tu-160, as well as an An-12 and Il-78. The total losses of Russian aviation amounted to 41 units.